Welcome to the de Havilland Aircraft Museum. Having worked as a volunteer for some time at the museum, I often get members of the public ask me, what are your favourite exhibits at the museum? So in this video, I want to share with you my own personal 5 top favourite exhibits. Now they're only my personal favourites, they're not in any way endorsed by the museum, they're just the ones that I personally like. So if you disagree with me, and I'm sure some of you will, please put a note in the comments, and what we're also going to do is have a poll where we're going to put together the top 5 that other volunteers and other members of the public come up with. So these are, my personal view, the top 5 exhibits at the de Havilland Aircraft Museum. So number 5 on my list is this aircraft here. That's the Hornet Moth. Why? Well, in my opinion, this represents the final iteration of the Moth family, which started with the DH100 Moth. You can still tell that it's a Moth. It's got the folding wings associated with the original Moth. It's got the Gypsy Major engine that you see in the Moth Major. The tailplane is classic Moth shape. But they've taken it a stage further. They've got an enclosed cockpit, side-by-side seating. In all, it represents the Moth at its final iteration. And for that reason, that's why it's number 5 on my top exhibits. Number 4 on my list is this, the DH100 Vampire. Why? Well, it represents that transition from classic aeroplanes with propellers into becoming a jet aeroplane, but it still retains a lot of the basic technology that de Havilland had built. The fuselage is made of plywood. It's a basic aeroplane. A lot of people called it the RAF's last basic fighter, and yet it's a jet fighter, a jet interceptor, and it represents that new era which de Havilland pioneered. For that reason, it's my number 4. Do you agree? Why don't you add a comment? Don't forget to like and subscribe as well. Number 3 on my top 5 is a somewhat gruesome exhibit, but I think it's one that represents de Havilland and what de Havilland were doing in the aircraft industry in the late war period. This is the actual skin from one of the de Havilland Comets that was used to test for the fatigue failure. So when, unfortunately, the Comets failed due to the so-called square windows, one particular aircraft was taken and was stress tested in a water tank. And this is the actual skin of one of those aircraft that was used in the testing. It proved that the problem was due to fatigue near the rivets. And in so doing, it advanced the technology of aviation. It's sad that there had to be crashes before this happened, but it does represent a stepping stone in the aviation industry, which de Havilland was very much involved with. Number 2 on my list is probably for some people going to be their favourite aircraft at the museum. It's the one on which the museum was founded. It's the original Mosquito Prototype. So it's the first ever that was made. Historically, it was built just a few feet from where she now stands. And it represents the beginning of what was going to become 7,500 other aircraft, other examples of the famous wooden wonder that even Hermann Göring didn't like. So what's not to like that we've got here at the de Havilland Museum, not just a mosquito, not just 3 mosquitoes, but amongst those 3, we have got the first ever Mosquito Prototype sitting just a few feet from where it was made. And that's why this is my number 2. So my number 1 exhibit, my all-time favourite of the many exhibits at this museum, is this particular exhibit here. Not an aircraft, but an engine. A Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. But not just any Merlin engine. This particular engine was the starboard engine of a Mosquito night fighter. It was damaged in action in 1944. It was salvaged in the 90s and restored by the museum volunteers into the condition you can see it today. So it's a wartime relic. It's a Mosquito relic. It's an iconic engine, and it represents a part of aviation history that was absolutely foundational at the time. Not only is it a fascinating engine, but it also works. So what do you think? Am I right with those few? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to this video and come and see us at the museum. A moth, part of the family. This is my number 2. 3.
All right, and ready to go.
See you at the museum.